Good evening and welcome to the news. As usual, the Wednesday bulletin runs for an hour and a half, covering every corner of the country and treating stories that affect Nigeria and Nigerians with just that extra bit of detail. We'll follow developing stories and develop new leads on key issues. Tonight, AHL and annual gas processing plants plus 23-kilometer metering station gas pipeline inaugurated. President Tinubu says facilities will boost the nation's gas supply by 30%. On security, SCT Police deploys Operation Puff Adder to sting criminals. On the economy, Bauchi state government set to introduce price control policy. Plus, what exactly is the story about the 100 brides set for weddings in Niger?
It is such a time, a thorough investigation is carried out on those girls, find out whether they gave their consent, find out their ages, find out the people marrying them.
I didn't arrange the marriage of nobody. I was approached by the traditional institution and religious leaders of my community, soliciting for help on behalf of the less privileged parents.
We also have our regular packages in agriculture, health, youth development, sports and business. And talking of business, Benny is on hand to count every penny. It's an eclectic package, but don't take my word for it. After all, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. I'm Henry John, and this is News Extra. Welcome. Now let's set sail as President Bola Tinubu is reiterating for emphasis his administration's resolve to continue to support gas development and utilization in order to support Nigeria's economic growth. President Tinubu said this as he inaugurated 3 gas projects located in Delta and Imo states in a hybrid event. State House correspondent Musbao Dan Wahab has more.
For years, large chunk of Nigeria's potential source of wealth, the natural and associated gas, have been flared away in flame like this. But then, President Bola Tinubu came into his administration with a clear vision of the prospect gas has for Nigeria's prosperity. A convergence of interest and vision as the foundation prepared by the NNPCL and partners embraced the idea of President Bola Tinubu to increase gas production and utilization in Nigeria. 11 months down the lane, a milestone has been achieved with 3 major gas projects inaugurated. Annual gas processing plants and annual gas pipeline projects in Imo State, as well as AHL gas processing plants in Delta States, are set to produce additional 500 million scoff of gas to support the CNG initiative of the administration, supply gas to industries and other critical segments of the economy.
The projects also fully in line with the Decade of Gas initiative and our quest to create value from nation's abundant gas assets while eliminating gas flaring and celebrating industrialization.
And as potentials have been turned into reality, President Tinubu promises that his administration will continue stepping up initiatives to the realization of a gas to prosperity goal.
Equally, I wish to assure investors in the energy space that this is an investment-enabling government, and we will not relent in our effort to facilitate the ease of doing business in Nigeria.
And congratulations to the President, congratulations to all Nigerians. So that is the major step towards industrialization and towards creation of jobs for our children.
We should take a lesson from what has happened today that the power of public-private partnership is the way forward for Nigeria.
We can now see how the gas that was being fled is now being converted to wealth. So this is the ingenuity and the thinking of a great leader.
We do hope that with the kind of transition we are seeing from the PMS to CNG, especially in public transportation system, this will drive that process in a very clear direction.
That is the agenda of Mr. President, to create the enabling environment. And we know that in particular, with regard to the oil and gas sector, some new initiatives have come out that have allowed the speeding up of investment in that sector.
This administration is not only targeting increased gas production for local consumption alone, it is also aiming to be a net exporter of a product. And President Bola Tinubu says today's achievement is just the beginning of commitment to this mission. From the State House, Musbah Dan Wahab, NTA News.
Meanwhile, a 200 million standard cubic feet capacity gas processing plant has been inaugurated in Odokwa West local government area in Delta State, projected to turn Ogwani into a vibrant, thriving community. Key players believe the inherent benefits of the inaugurated gas plant will have positive ripple economic effects across the country. Lydia Samson will tell us more.
As the sky is raging, so also is Nigeria's race to harness its enormous gas resources.
The complaint often when projects like this ones are cited is that indigents of the place hardly get employed. I'm going to have an interface with an indigent of Kwale, who is perhaps one among the many that are privileged to be impacted directly to employment with this job.
First of all, we'll say we are very happy to have a project of this kind of magnitude within our community here. Looking at the present economic situation of this country, currently I would say I'm happy having this job.
The speedy nature of the assignment at hand was to realize one of President Bola Tinubu's vision, and the anticipation of game-changing result is palpable.
We have reached a critical turning point. The decision to eliminate fuel subsidy at the start of your administration has compelled increased spending in the upstream and midstream gas development, and the use of gas as an appropriate, more cost-effective and cleaner alternative to diesel and gasoline.
The three infrastructure projects will enable additional gas processing capacity and also increase supply of liquefied petroleum gas, thereby reducing dependency on importation and also on petroleum spirit.
One unique thing about this project is the addition to the LPG supply into the country, because they will supply close to 20% of LPG requirement in the country.
The AHL gas processing plant is in line with the federal government's flare-out policy in support of a cleaner world. AHL gas plant is expected to act as a catalyst in rapid industrial development of Nigeria and support higher GDP of the country. Residents are hopeful of economic benefits through job creation, tax revenues and support for local businesses. Just like the life of Noel Ulisi has been positively impacted, the plan will create employment so that many more Nigerians can be gainfully employed. Lydia Samson, NTA News.
Away from gas projects now, the Bishop of the Sokoto Catholic Diocese, Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka, has expressed hope that the policy decisions of the current administration, if properly managed, could lead to greater prosperity of the nation. The priest was at the State House on a personal visit to President Bola Tinubu. State House correspondent Musbah Dan Wahab reports that it was the first time Bishop Kuka has visited the president since his assumption of office. Fielding questions from correspondents after his meeting with President Tinubu, the bishop acknowledged the socio-economic realities Nigerians are currently facing, believing in the possibilities that the ongoing policies would enhance the welfare and security of the people.
I believe that the times that we're in now are very, very difficult times, and nobody should be under any illusion. But there are also times for renewal. We just need to commit ourselves to the fact that building a good society takes a lot of time. It's not something that is done in one lifetime. And for me, the most important thing is for us to continue on the building blocks of the things that we think are being done well. My argument has always been that the government needs to very quickly improve the quality of communication so that Nigerians can at least get a sense of how long is it going to be before food is ready.
Away from the State House now, airlifts of Nigerian pilgrims for the 2024 Holy Pilgrimage to Mecca in Saudi Arabia has kicked off in Kebbi State. Vice President Kashim Shettima, who flagged up the exercise, charged the pilgrims to be good ambassadors of the country. Correspondent Abdul Jalil Mohammed Bawa reports.
430 intending pilgrims from Kebbi State took off from the Sir Ahmadu Bello International Airport, Birnin Kebbi, to Saudi Arabia for the 2024 Hajj exercise. Inaugurating the exercise, Vice President Kashim Shettima called on the intending pilgrims to use the Hajj exercise to pray for the success of the leadership in Nigeria and a breakthrough for the country.
Government is the highest level monitors all arrangements made for the well-being of our pilgrims, both in Saudi Arabia and within the country before embarking on the journey. We are aware of the provisions put in place for the safety, security, and comfort of Nigerian contingent to the 2024 Hajj.
The Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammad Saad Abubakar, applauded the Kebbi State government for the arrangement put in place for the exercise.
We're in an era of renewed hope. So tell Ashwaju that his renewed hope is still being expected to shine everywhere. We are looking for more, we want more and more.
The state spearheaded the payment of additional cost of Hajj fare to each of the pilgrims at the rate of 1 million naira per head, irrespective of political inclination of our pilgrims.
With the inauguration in Birnin Kebbi, other states are expected to start the airlift of other intending pilgrims.
This is the first time the Sir Ahmadu Bello International Airport, Birnin Kebbi, is used for the airlift of intending pilgrims from Nigeria. In Birnin Kebbi, Abdul Jalil Mohammed Bawa, NTA News.
Looking at other issues now, media owners in Nigeria have been encouraged to key into the federal government renewable energy initiative and develop alternative power sources to cushion the effects of fuel subsidy removal. Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, engaged Independent Broadcasters Association of Nigeria and pledged government support to the media in Nigeria. Salihu Gwanarhar brings us details.
Media has remained critical and inevitable in the development of any society. This is to build cordial relationships between the government and independent media operators with the desire to use their platforms to complement effective information dissemination.
Media platforms.
Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, reiterated efforts by the federal government in remodeling the business model of the digital switchover project, domestication of adverts production, and profiling of foreign media that are operating in Nigeria.
The Ministry of Information and National Orientation under my leadership has as its core pillar supporting all media platforms in this country, whether they are public or private. The President has already directed that the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment look at the possibility of giving loans to media organizations as single-digit interest. I think you need to take advantage.
We are also suggesting that host communities must be carried along by the government in ensuring that some of these adverts that comes from agencies in Lagos should take the sensitivities of the local communities. You can imagine some states, agencies will now prefer to give to foreign brands. I think, sir, that is against the local content policy.
Independent Broadcasters Association of Nigeria reaffirmed commitment to be credible partners in developing Nigeria's media landscape. In Abuja, Saliu Gwanara, NTA News.
2,977 intending pilgrims from FCT will be airlifted from Abuja for the 2024 Hajj exercise. Aisha Uba Ali reports that FCT Minister of State Maria Mahmood, in a farewell message, charged the intending pilgrims to pray for the nation and also adhere to the laws and new policies of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
City Hajj camp seems to be the recent hub and a convergence point, as all is set to begin the airlifting of the pilgrims performing this year's spiritual exercise in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The minister expressed confidence that the FCT Hajj operation this year would be rated higher than the previous ones, going by the commitment of the entire officials.
To achieve this, as usual, the administration has successfully concluded all necessary arrangements for the welfare of our intended pilgrims to the Holy Land.
Director, FCT Muslim Pilgrims Welfare Board, Abubakar Adamu Ivuti, says the figure of less than 3,000 comprises regular seats allocated to the board by the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NACON, the seats registered through the Hajj Savings Schemes, HSS, and seats allocated to stakeholders due to the peculiar status of the FCT. The board appreciated the effort of the FCT administration that made it possible to secure a befitting accommodation in Mecca for the intending pilgrims, which will enable them perform their 5 daily obligatory prayers at the holy mosques with ease. In Abuja, Aisha Uba Ali, NTA News.
Let's head to the National Assembly now, as the financial and technical performance of electricity companies for improved supply of electricity has been boosted as Senate approves a $500 million loan request for the Bureau of Public Enterprise. The money will be invested in the procurement of electricity meters for Nigerians. National Assembly correspondent Lamiali reports that the approval is in line with the request of President Tinubu under the 2022 to 2024 external rolling borrowing plan.
The approval is as recommended by the Senate Committee on Local and Foreign Debts. The $500 million loan is to facilitate financing and technical performance of distribution companies in the Nigeria Distribution Sector Recovery Program. Senate, however, requested for the terms and conditions of the loan being sourced from the World Bank. Meanwhile, President Tinubu has communicated Senate seeking confirmation of Emomoti Miyagama as the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, while Frana Chukwugo, Bola Jomale and Semiye Usman to serve as commissioners.
Please accept the distinguished Senate President and distinguished senators the assurances of my highest consideration and personal regards. Yours sincerely, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
A bill to establish Federal Polytechnic Onueke in Ebonyi State, sponsored by Senator Kenneth Eze, passed second reading.
It is not only justifiable from an economic standpoint, but aligned with the broad vision of the federal government's renewed hope agenda on education, which is skill development for all levels of education.
Also passed at second reading is the bill to amend the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria Act to involve states and the Federal Capital Territory in key aspects of the exercise.
Selection of airlines for Hajj operations, as well as allow states and FCT to manage accommodation and feeding of pilgrims in Medina and Mashair as may be regulated by NACON.
Against the backdrop of the fact that you cannot be a regulator and operator at the same time.
The number of people that attend Hajj every year from Nigeria is very high. And for those of us that have attended 1, 2, 3 times, you know that always compendium of problems in terms of accommodation, in terms of feeding.
Financial autonomy for local governments was among motions at Wednesday's sitting that enjoyed bipartisan support of lawmakers. It was raised by Senator Kawu Sumaila.
We believe that empowering local government holds the key to unlocking a brighter future for Nigeria.
We can solve what is happening in our country today. It's to return local government money 100% to the local government council.
Over 17 local states in this country are operating the caretaker committee.
So further with the allocation of funds to caretaker committee, led local government areas. Those in favor of the prayer, please say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it.
Senate has urged authorities to investigate and arrest those behind killings of some persons in Enugu State, as moved by Senator Okechukwu Ezia. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
And now, good news is coming from the Green Chamber. This is because the House is calling on the Ministry of Transportation to commence the construction of the rail line from Itakpe in Kogi State to Abuja, the nation's capital. At Wednesday's plenary, members also urged the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Office of the National Security Advisor to carry further enlightenment campaign on the Cyber Crimes Act. National Assembly correspondent Mitari Ikme reports on these and other resolutions at plenary.
As Nigerians enjoy the services of the Itakpe-Warri rail line, lawmakers express worry over delay in execution of the Itakpe-Abuja component 3 years after the contract has been awarded.
To urge the Ministry of Transport to ensure immediate execution of the contract that was awarded in this respect.
The House stressed the need for more enlightenment on the provisions of the Cyber Crime Act, clarifying that lawmakers were not against a law enacted by Parliament, but against ambiguity in the CBN's circular on the cyber security levy.
The levy does not apply to ordinary Nigerians, but only to the establishment listed in the second schedule of the Act. And these establishments are GSM service providers and all telecommunication companies.
A call for investigation into the condition of aircraft in the presidential air fleet stirred up debate among lawmakers. The House asked its Committee on National Security and Intelligence to carry out that investigation.
Detailed explanation of why the fleet is not operating optimum capacity needed to guarantee the presidential corridor safety.
That the Vice President will take a commercial flight somewhere, in spite of the number of aircraft we have in the fleet, is amazing.
But invite NSA if you have to. Invite the commandant in charge of the air fleet. We're talking about the #1 citizen of the country. His security is very important to us.
A bill to amend the Court of Appeal Act 2004 passed second reading.
To increase the number of justices from 90 to a minimum of 150 justices in line with current realities.
Meanwhile, a bill for an act to establish Institute of Chartered Corporate and Business Affairs Management of Nigeria also scaled second reading. From the National Assembly, Mitari Ikben, NTA News.
Now time for a break. Please stay with us. Welcome back. United Nations is advocating concerted and coordinated efforts by the federal and state governments, humanitarian and development partners, donors, as well as private sector in addressing the humanitarian crisis in the Northeast. Chukwunonso Nwabweze reports that this was at the launch of the 2024 Lean Season Food Security and Nutrition Crisis Multi-Sector Plan for Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe states at the UN House in Abuja.
This year's launch, the United Nations Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator for Nigeria, Mohammed Malik IV, said is to galvanize global and local support in raising $306 million to meet the humanitarian needs of 2.8 million people, particularly children, pregnant and lactating mothers, and other vulnerable groups in Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe states.
700,000 children under 5 across the 3 states are also projected to be acutely malnourished during the lean season, including 230,000 who are expected to be severely and acutely malnourished and at high risk of death. They need immediate and coordinated intervention.
The mobilization of funding and resources by the UN OCHA to address this lean season food security and nutrition crisis envisaged in the northeastern part of the country is a step in the right direction in complementing federal government's efforts to prevent death of people as a result of malnutrition-related complications.
Trust this launch will further provide perspectives towards addressing food and nutrition crisis in the base states.
We are open to supporting the UN and other partners to mobilize critical funding and resources to further address the food insecurity and malnutrition crisis in Yobe State.
Our governments are ever ready to ensure that we partner with all of you to bring support to our people, because healthy children mean healthy citizens and productive citizens at the end of the day.
With the availability of the required resources, the initiative is expected to mitigate the impact of food insecurity, malnutrition, as well as health and sanitation on the target population within the next 6 months. Chukunonsonwa Boise, NTA News.
Looking at security matters now, the Nigerian Army's upskilling simulation exercise to enhance training of personnel to combat the nation's complex security challenges. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa reports that the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tuarid Lagbaja, said this in a message at the opening ceremony of the 23 Brigade Simulation Exercise, codenamed Exercise Zaki Ruri, at the Land Forces Simulation Center in Giri, Abuja.
The intensive training on the use of Massa software technology for personnel of the 23 Brigade Yola is focused on enhancing the operational capacity of the Army using simulation technologies. This creates real-time scenario and enhances the training of troops to effectively tackle emerging threats in their general area of responsibility.
It is expected to expose salient gaps which could hinder attainment of total security and defense of the 23 Brigade area of responsibility.
The Director General of the Center, Major General Yusuf, says the Army has intensified aggressive response to security threats and will ensure constant review of its mode of operation to eliminate criminals and their camps.
We do not have any option than to continue to provide first-class training to all officers and men of the Nigerian Army. Only by providing this training will we, as a force or as a nation, bring to a logical conclusion the entire security challenges we are facing in this country.
The center focuses on employment of modern technology and deliberate efforts to develop leadership skills of junior commanders who are critical component of the ongoing internal security operations across the country. In Abuja, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
Meanwhile, effective sharing of information among security agencies is the way to go in combating terrorism financing, particularly in the Northeast region. This was a submission of participants at the National Dialogue on Preventing Terrorism Financing and Violent Extremism holding in Abuja. Muhammad Rabiu Ali reports.
The concern about financing of terrorist activities in the country, especially in the Northeast, have triggered unfavorable indices from 2023 Global Terrorism Index. With the effort of the security architecture in the country, success stories have been recorded in many areas. These engagements put together by CISLAC, Transparency International, and GIABA ECOWAS is to find workable mechanisms that will track terrorism financing that is of concern to the country.
We know that our security men and women have been working very hard to ensure that they curtail the effect of terrorism in this country, but also the citizens need to also contribute by providing credible information and also staying away from being recruited to commit such kind of atrocities.
Almost all the security challenges we have is a product of corruption. Almost all of them are product of economic and financial crimes. If we help them, we will address a major percentage of the crisis we face, be them in security or be them in terms of development.
Other contributors called for strengthening of national border surveillance to prevent the inflow of funds and resources for terrorist activities.
Part of the focus of EFCC in the quest to tackle terrorism and violent extremism in that region is to follow the fund trail of critical actors in the region and cutting off the supply line of illicit funds to non-criminal groups. While we continue to congratulate and encourage the efforts of the security services in Nigeria for decimating Boko Haram, but it's not completely gone. We still have a lot to do.
Experts say no to violence, but dialogue and discussions among various stakeholders is the key to success. In Abuja, Muhammad Rabiu Ali, NTA News.
And still talking security now, the EFCT Police Command is adopting advanced technological warfare in the fight against insecurity to ensure a peaceful nation's capital. To this end, ongoing special operations are reviewing unmanned combat aerial assault platforms to enhance advantages. Security correspondent Onutu Yakubu brings us situation update from the base of Operation Puff Adder.
Sustaining the present level of peace in the Federal Capital Territory is now considered a guerrilla warfare by the handlers. What this means to the nation's capital's police is that the best cavalry will take home the trophy. Therefore, nothing is left to chance in deployments. Operation Puff Adder already exists in Chukuku on the Kuje axis against kidnapping. But a strong intelligence pointed to movement of elements on the hillside that accounted for this assault.
Bandit and banditry is guerrilla warfare. It's a seek and hide game. They are operating in one place. They provide a makeshift tent and move. So we continue to provide the available resource.
From Kuje axis, the team moved to Yaba, Abaji Kogi Niger flank with intent to dominate the FCT security space and preempt the enemy's motives.
As part of what we have been directed to do, to check the excesses of the crime and criminality, as well as the criminal element. We have crime map everywhere. We have known where they are, and we'll continue to follow them to take the battle to their doorstep.
Mission accomplished. The combat deployed drone returns to base, with the police team assuring that such response to repel perceived threat has become common practice going forward. In Abuja, Onotu Yakubu, NTA News.
And in the Big Heart, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, Delta State Command, has arrested 2 suspects and impounded a customized truck for illegal transportation of crude oil in Kwale, Delta State. Godfrey Unzekwe reports.
Commandant, Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, Delta State Command, Suleiman Agbolajimo, in line with the Commandant General's consistent onslaught against economic sabotage and vandalization of critical national assets and infrastructures of federal, state and local government, has arrested 2 alleged suspects in connection with illegal transportation of substance suspected to be crude oil in Kwale. The substance is concealed in a truck conveying disposable plates made from styrofoam and empty cartons of beverages. At the point of arrest, it was discovered that part of the truck has a concealed tank where about 30 drums of the product was loaded.
For this month alone, this should be the 3rd or 4th arrest that we made in aspect of vandalism in the state, most especially on aspect of oil and gas for the state. As usual, we are not relenting in going against the vandals who are after sabotaging the economy of the country.
The suspects, the driver and his conductor, denied knowledge of the product. He claimed that he is not the real driver but was hired to deliver the goods after it had been loaded. In Asaba, Godfrey Nzekwe, NTA News.
Now, service to humanity is the motto of the Nigerian Air Force Officers' Wives Association, which has backed words with action by reaching out to 100 families displaced by insurgency and now living in camps in Abuja. Defense correspondent Najato Tijani has the details.
Affected by insurgency and terrorism,
needing support and comfort. These displaced families are about to be pleasantly surprised. Like winged birds bearing gifts, these Nigerian Air Force officers' wives, whose husbands are at the forefront in the battle with insurgents, have come to stand in solidarity with these 100 families who have been displaced from their homes. A situation which the national president of NAFOA says must be addressed through collective efforts.
We are here to reassure you that you are not alone, and we are ready to share our resources in providing comfort in any way possible.
Understanding that government alone cannot provide all the necessary humanitarian aid, NAFOA backs words with action and puts smiles on the faces of the camp dwellers. Calling on individuals and organizations to join in providing support for those in need, NAFOA expresses hope that the beneficiaries will one day pull themselves by their own bootstraps to become self-reliant. Naja'at Tijani, NTA News.
We have more enough, but that's after the break. Please remain tuned. Altitude is just the beginning, says the Nigerian Air Force, which is set to celebrate 6 decades of soaring high. In a press briefing attended by local and international media, the NAF gave a sneak peek into the activities.
Cutting-edge capabilities and strategic partnerships as the Nigerian Air Force prepares to mark 60 years.
The 3rd African Air Forces Forum, Conference and Exhibition will take place from 23rd to 24th May at the International Conference Center, Abuja. Here we're expecting over 2,000 participants with over 30 Air Force chiefs and 10 chiefs of air staff already confirming their participation. Also, we expect over 40 exhibitors, including major defense and aerospace players.
The Nigerian Air Force will be the 3rd largest air force in Africa, and the reason is simple. We're expecting AH-1 Zulu helicopters, fighter helicopters from the US. So if you talk of strength and numbers, a lot is going to change. And of course, once you have this kind of strength, you're talking about spread.
With the theme, Leveraging Strategic Partnerships and Aerospace Innovations for Regional Security, the NAF says it is poised to demonstrate its commitment to excellence and regional stability. And now that President Tinubu has directed MDAs to lean more towards CNG-powered vehicles, the NAF says it is poised to demonstrate its commitment in that regard. Naja'at Tijani, NTA News.
Looking at other stories now, every society around the world is regulated by rules and regulations, guiding the conduct of the leaders and followers in such a society. However, when a member of such society flouts its moral values by engaging in unethical economic activity, it is usually categorized as corrupt act. Since the rise in awareness about the existence and dangers of corrupt practices on the psyche and livelihood of Nigerians among other countries of the world, there have been calls for stringent measures to be put in place to curb the illegal act. Mina Daniels tells us more.
Upon the advent of the Fourth Republic in 1999, when democratic structures took over the realm of governance from the military, there were high expectations that Nigerians would keep on towing the path of moral uprightness, a concept described as necessary for an orderly society. But over time, reports of unethical behavior by some unscrupulous people continue to give rise to a popular concept of corruption. But what is corruption?
It's an act of trying to make gains where not applicable. You must first of all realize and convince yourself that you are responsible so that you don't do irresponsible thing, because corruption in itself is an act of irresponsibility.
We find out a key example, which is bribery. It's a thing that happens every day, most of our offices in Nigeria. So how do we check that? We're bringing in technology. Are we going to look at reorientation of the individuals that work in those places?
Having identified examples of corrupt practices to include examination malpractices or falsification of public records to commit fraud, they believe that it is in the public interest for Nigerians to rebuff such acts whenever they occur.
The solution to corruption in our society is to ensure that we all support the fight against corruption and support the anti-graft agencies in their effort in combating corruption.
Analysts say the message of a corrupt-free society needs to permeate the psyche of the people for it to have a lasting effect. In Abuja, Minna Daniels, NTA News.
Let's head to the courtroom now as the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory sitting in Abuja has granted bail to the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, to the tune of 300 million naira and 2 sureties in like sum in another 4-count charge preferred against him. The presiding judge, Justice Marian Anene, gave the order in a ruling on the bail application filed by the Defense Counsel in the matter. Emefiele was this Wednesday rearraigned before the court on 4 counts charge, which borders on unlawful printing of naira notes and unapproved withdrawal of funds. The former governor of the Central Bank, who is being prosecuted by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, pleaded not guilty to all the counts and filed for bail through his counsel, Mahmood Magaji, SAN. The bail conditions are the same with the one granted by Justice Hamza Muazu of the same court, except that the defendant will not travel outside the country without the permission of the court. Justice Anene adjourned the case to 28th and 29th of May for commencement of trial. Away from the courtroom quickly now, Nigeria's implementation of the Open Government Partnership OGP Action Plan is breaking down barriers and ushering in a new era of transparency and accountability. At the forefront of this change is the Beneficial Ownership Portal, an online platform that reveals the hidden owners of companies in the extractive industries. Nika Oko tells us more.
The anonymity of company ownership, experts say, has long facilitated illicit financial flows and corrupt practices in Nigeria. But initiatives like the Beneficial Ownership Register are turning the tide by revealing hidden owners in the extractive industries. This review conference is convened to assess Nigeria's progress so far and outline way forward in advancing governance reforms and strengthening the country's anti-corruption framework.
The successful implementation of the OGP initiatives, especially in citizens' participation, beneficial ownership, transparency, and freedom of information, highlights the potential for further positive impact.
But there is more that can and should be done. The Nigerian Open Contracting Portal, NOCOPO, needs to be fully functional to increase openness and transparency in public procurement.
Now, these stakeholders have come together today to review 8 years of open government partnership in Nigeria, the challenges experienced so far, to re-strategize and to reposition the partnership in Nigeria.
Nigeria joined the Open Government Partnership in 2016 to deepen governance reforms and promote the fight against corruption. Since joining the global initiative, the country has developed 2 national action plans across critical thematic areas and sectors, with the 3rd one currently being implemented. In Abuja, Nneka Oko, NTA News.
The Minister of Women Affairs, Uju Kennedy Ohanenye, has filed a suit seeking a court injunction to restrain the Speaker of Niger State House of Assembly from allegedly planning to marry off about 100 displaced and orphan girls in Mariga local government area of Niger State as his constituency project. The minister briefed the media on this development.
Being the Speaker of Niger State, Abdul Malik Sarikim Daji mentioned as part of his constituency project to marry out and pay dowries for 100 orphans who were displaced by bandits. This is totally unacceptable by Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and by the government, because there's something we call Child Act law now must be considered. Their future must be considered. The future of the children to come out of that marriage must be considered. So I have gone to court. I have written him a letter. I've written a petition to the IG of police, and I have filed for injunction to stop him from whatever he's planning to do on the 24th until such a time a thorough investigation is carried out on those girls, find out whether they gave their consent, find out their ages, find out the people marrying them. As the speaker did not think about empowering these women or sending them to school or giving them some kind of training or support financially, the Women Affairs have decided to take it up.
The Minister of Women Affairs there, and in reaction to her statement, the Speaker of the Niger State House of Assembly, Abdul Malik Sarkindani, has refuted allegations that he's marrying off underage girls as part of his constituency project. The Speaker disclosed this during a media chat with pressmen after receiving a letter from the Office of the Minister of Women Affairs challenging the planned wedding. Musa Mikhail reports.
Speaker of the Niger State House of Assembly, Abdul Malik Sarkindaji, while briefing newsmen on the mass wedding controversy, described the report as untrue that the said girls are underage.
I didn't force any child into any marriage. But that I must be very clear about. I didn't arrange the marriage of nobody. I was approached by the traditional institution and religious leaders of my community, soliciting for help on behalf of the less privileged parents, whom their children are of age, are of maturity, they attain their full faculty of understanding, and have their own suitors of their own choice, but will not marry them out because of marriage expenses.
Speaking on the attempt by different organizations to sue him on the issue, the Speaker said efforts would have been made to interface and clarify the matter directly with him.
I believe this is an issue that ordinarily the SSA or the Minister of Women Affairs can easily get across to me, so that we can interface, share ideas, work out through the initiatives, how it even developed in the first place, so that we can be of guidance to each other. But instead, they made a topic out of it.
The Speaker clarified that though he will not be attending the wedding, however, all the support given will not be withdrawn. From the State Legislative Complex, Musa Mikhail, NTA News.
Let's turn our attention somewhere else now, as a one-day capacity building workshop to strengthen the fight against trafficking in persons and increase awareness at the grassroots has held in Benin. The workshop was organized by the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons in conjunction with the International Center for Migration and Policy Development. Had in attendance heads of schools. Bukola Urubusi has the details.
In March this year, ICMPD carried out a baseline assessment to know how knowledgeable schools, government officials, civil society organizations, and various individuals are on dangers associated with human trafficking in the zone. Statistics indicate that 1,464 cases were reported in 2022, including 12 years teenagers, which is below 3%, while 13 to 16 years represents 76%. The workshop is to create awareness and address the challenges of trafficking school-age children, young adults, as well as its implications on the country's identity.
They need to be sensitized. If you say you can survive with one kidney and it fails, what happens?
Part of this project is to ensure that PTAs are not just looking at how to improve on the facilities in the schools, but for them to understand that they must also be on the same page with their children.
cooperation among parents, civil society organizations, and schools they suggested will help to combat the scourge. In Benin, Udwakobong, Achibong, NTA News.
The growth of the African continent has been slowed down due to diverse conflicts recently, and scholars believe empirical research, ideas and knowledge sharing are needed to address the situation. This was at the maiden conference of the Abuja Institute of Peace Studies in collaboration with the United Nations Office on Genocide. Zenret Digmon reports.
Activities across our continents to the primary schedules of United Nations, primary schedules of governance and leadership provision down to local governments and communities, the whole world over. The topmost agenda there for leadership of all sorts across the world is peace, peace management, peace sustenance.
Concerned by the stagnation in multisectoral development across the continent, these organizations came together to find solutions. Domesticating research is the core of the conference, with speakers hinging on the need for collaborations like this on what they described as the long and rough journey to achieving peace.
Rigorous studies have been undertaken, which has provided policymakers and practitioners with a deeper understanding of the root causes of the conflicts, the dynamics of the violence, and the factors that contribute to the community resilience.
And people are willing to collaborate so that we can forge ahead. People are tired of conflicts here and there, crisis here and there. People are tired of it.
Let us commit to ongoing collaboration, continuous learning, and data-driven strategies for a safer and more peaceful Africa.
We need to ensure that people are not ignorant. The moment we do this, in addition to other measures we are taking, we will overcome the challenges.
The theme, promoting empirical research for peace, practice and safety in Africa, a peer review, speaks volumes to the results hoped for. In Abuja, Zenred Dingmun, NTA News.
The fight against substance abuse is everybody's responsibility, irrespective of gender, age limit or class. Now, the chairperson of the Northern Governors' Wives Forum, Asmao Inua Yahaya, said this during the stakeholders' meeting on substance abuse and call to action against the menace in the zone. Zara Umar Adamu reports that the spouses converged on Gombe for their quarterly meeting.
Approximately 14.3 million Nigerians within the age range of 15 to 64 years are involved in drug abuse. This is according to National Drugs Law Enforcement Agency (NDLEA). Concerned with the trend of substance abuse in northern Nigeria, Northern Governors' Wives Forum calls on wealthy individuals to sponsor treatment of a drug dependent.
I think we have so many of them in our societies. And unfortunately, I was told by staff of the NDLEA, some drug victims will be brought for rehabilitation, but unfortunately when they hear of the payments, they will take them back.
The severity of the situation is a reminder that we all have roles to play. It affects individuals and communities regardless of age, gender, or socioeconomic status. The abuse of illicit substances, including prescription drugs, poses grave threat to public health, security, and development.
The Northern Governors' Wives Forum empowered women and carried out tree planting in Government Girls Science Secondary School, Doma. Award presentation to the governor's spouses rounds up the 2 days meeting. Zara Umar Adam, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the National Drugs Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, Nasarawa State Command, has taken delivery of 8 bags of cannabis sativa weighing 111 kilograms. Achigili Magaji reports that the consignment alongside the suspect conveying it were intercepted by the Nigerian Air Force.
Referred to as the second biggest seizure in the state, the worth of the consignment is said to be 8 million naira. Receiving the substance on behalf of the State Commandant of the NDLEA, Basil Daniel, described the development as a success story of collaboration between the agency and other sister agencies. He expressed appreciation to the Nigerian Air Force for the seizure.
The young man was arrested by the Nigerian Air Force day for yesterday. So we have been working cordially with them. They have been assisting us, and this is one of their major arrests. The quantity of the drugs seized is 711 kg.
The suspect, one Ibrahim Yusuf, who confessed to the crime, said he was contracted by one Moses Essen to convey the product for a fee of 50,000 naira.
I have done it for like 7 times now before I was arrested.
The suspect is expected to be arraigned in court after investigations. Atigili Magaji, NTA News.
Let's talk road safety now, as the Corps Marshal Federal Road Safety Corps has met with the leadership of the National Union of Road Transport Workers to work out modalities of reducing road traffic crashes nationwide. Oyeyemi Ajayi has the details.
For the Federal Road Safety Corps, it's a continuous quest on how to eradicate incessant road crashes on Nigerian roads. Over time, the Corps has met with different transport stakeholders on ways of ensuring safety and sanity on the highways. And this time around, it becomes necessary to talk to the leadership of the National Union of Road Transport Workers, with major focus on key issues bordering on careless driving behaviors and poor vehicle maintenance.
Every cause of road traffic accident, the human factor can mitigate those causes through behavior, through your behavior on the road while driving the vehicle. Now, some of the things we identify, the most critical one among them is speeding.
Actually, the duty of the road safety is to contain the problem on our highway. We are the road users, and we know what it takes. But at the same time, I want to use this medium to appeal to the federal government to repair most of our road.
The Corps Marshal, however, commended the commitment of the union to collaborate with the Corps towards entrenching safety on the highways. The union's support for the ban of sales of alcohol in all motor parks was as well commended. Oyeyemi Ajayi, NTA News.
Organized Labour says it has rejected 48,000 naira national minimum wage the federal government is proposing for Nigerian workers. President, Nigerian Labour Congress, Joseph Ajero, and Deputy President, Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, Tommy Okon, made this known to newsmen in Abuja after representatives of the organized labor walked out of the tripartite National Minimum Wage Committee meeting. They say the proposal brought forward by representatives of the government falls short of the needs and aspiration of workers.
I want us to now say there will be no medical allowance, or there will be no housing, or there will be no transport. So they have not even provided the basis. You just say 48, and we say, what is this 48 for? And they are not ready to talk. As we talk now, the Bureau of Statistics in Nigeria is saying that a meal is 900. Why we make proposal for 500? That's a government agency. So these are things that we expect them to confront us with.
The Labour leaders have given government 2 weeks to reconsider its position and come back to the negotiation table with a wage that reflects current realities in the country. Organised Labour is proposing 615,000 naira national minimum wage, which it says is based on evidence and data it collected. Now time to talk business. Benny is here. Benny, hit us.
Now talking business, Nigeria's headline inflation has increased to 33.69% relative to the March 2024 headline inflation rate, which was 33.20%, indicating further increase of 0.49 percentage points. Data from the National Bureau of Statistics shows that the headline inflation rate was 11.47 percentage points higher compared to the rate recorded in April 2023, which was 22.22%. The food inflation rate in April 2024 was 40.53% on a year-on-year basis and 2.29% on a month-to-month basis. The urban inflation rate was 36%, while rural inflation in April 2024 was 31.64%. Nigeria is a land overflowing with the proverbial milk and honey in terms of abundant natural raw materials and solid minerals endowments, out of which only about 51.7% have been utilized for industrial purposes. Now, amid a foreign exchange scarcity for imports, industries are now looking inwards, just as stakeholders say there is more than enough in-country for economic growth.
To collaborate with international partners, both local and international, to see how we can fund and take off this project to commercialization. You may like to know that commercialization is a venture that requires huge capital so that you'll be able to carry it successfully. And that we are resolute, we are focused, and that we will pursue.
Now, oil prices rose on Wednesday on expectations for higher demand as the U.S. dollar weakened, and a report showed U.S. crude and gasoline inventories fell, while the release of inflation data may point to a more supportive economic outlook. Brent crude futures were up 39 cents at $82.77 a barrel in early trade, while the U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures rose 42 cents to $78.44 a barrel. And a quick look at the markets. At the end of today's trading session on the exchange, the all-share index depreciated by 0.13% as a total of 290.9 million shares in 7,328 deals, corresponding to a market value of 6.347 billion naira, were traded. Today's data shows 5% decline in volume, 15% improvement in turnover, but 8% decline in deals. The current market capitalization is 55.1 trillion naira. On the aggregate, 123 listed equities participated in trading, ending with 13 gainers and 31 losers. Guarantee Trust Holdings recorded the highest volume of 71.9 million traded shares, followed by Access Holdings 24.2 million and Tantalizers 21.3 million. Well, that is business news. On News Extra continues after this break. Do stay with us.
Thank you for staying. The process of imposing an economic policy that will regulate the prices of goods and services has kick-started in Bauchi State. Abdullahi Aminu reports that the price policy begins with a meeting with religious leaders from across the 20 local government areas of the state.
Measurement process of determining how large or small a physical quantity of commodity will be is fundamental for the foodstuffs and meat sellers, among other areas. The price control policy to be put in place by the Bauchi State Government under the State Ministry for Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs is aimed at alleviating the current economic hardship.
There is need for somebody who normally sells things to really comply with the norms of the society.
We shall accept all what government will come out with it with good faith, and we will support this government so that all what we will do, it will be on our benefit.
Our people, we are going to meet and talk to them that they will change, their character will change, their life will change.
Issue of the market agents who are said to be the key players for the imbalanced prices of commodities in our markets. The need for proper handling of animals are also among the issues that the price control policy is expected to address. Abdullahi Aminu, NTA News.
Away from Bauchi State now, the national benchmark and minimum standards for the accreditation of geriatric social care settings and training facilities in Nigeria have been presented to the public for adoption. Elizabeth Omori reports that this is the first time Nigeria is adopting such standards designed with the support of NSCC and key actors in geriatric care to address challenges of the older population in Nigeria.
A survey by the United Nations in 2012 showed that the elderly population in Nigeria
will increase from 6.4 million to 11.5 million in 2025, with possibility of developing chronic health conditions. This, Dr. Felix says, requires a multidisciplinary approach.
We must strengthen the health and social care of the older patients.
To make life comfortable for senior citizens in all strata is one of the reasons for the unveiling.
The elderly people are not left behind. They will continue to benefit and access quality healthcare services.
The standards we set today are not merely aspirations, but realities that we live and breathe in our service to the older generation.
Training providers, chairmen and members of the Geriatric Social Care Sector Skills Council were inaugurated to represent the interest of the Nigerian geriatric industry.
This will go a long way to close the gaps of some fundamental human rights of older persons, most especially those living in multidimensional poverty.
But let us shift from palliatives and adopt the structures that NSCC and partners are creating in geriatric social care, and have social care as social assistance, as a social program.
In changing the narratives of how older persons are treated in society, the National Occupational Standards for Geriatric Social Care in Nigeria was also presented. Elizabeth Omori, NTA News.
More commercials need to breathe at this point. Please stay with us. The Nigerian Television Authority says it is ready to give support towards achieving good and inclusive governance, especially at the grassroots. This formed part of assurances given by the Director General of NTA when the Youth Advocacy for Development and Empowerment Initiative paid a visit to the management in Abuja. Francis Udojo reports.
The desire of any nation is basically how to better the life of the people through effective management of both human and material resources. This, the Youth Advocacy for Development and Empowerment Initiative, YADE, said is lacking in Nigeria, with the rural community mostly affected. The group believed that collaborating with NTA, youth advocacy, inclusive governance, where traditional and religious institutions are enlightened and spurred to be part of governance, will help to promote accountability, equitable distribution of resources, and the overall growth of the nation.
To avoid growing poverty, unemployment, to avoid growing civil unrest, economic challenges, and all manner of crime. That's why we're here today. We can't do it without publicity.
The Director General of NTA, represented by the Executive Director, Administration and Training, Nansel Nimiel, assured the group of NTA's disposition in helping to realize the objective of good governance, leveraging its large network.
In line with your objective of promoting good governance and the participation of citizens, especially from the grassroots level, you can count on the support of NTA in virtually every community where you take your program to, because we have a presence there.
The DGNTA, however, urged every community to key into the YADE initiative to reap the benefits it affords. Francis Udojo, NTA News.
And the peep at the foreign scene says the African Development Bank Group pledges $2 billion over 10 years towards clean cooking solutions in Africa. A major step towards saving the lives of 600,000, mainly women and children, each year. Elsewhere, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he backs China's plan for a peaceful settlement of the Ukraine crisis. Details with Justin Bem-Uyi on Global Update.
At a landmark summit on clean cooking in Africa held in Paris, the African Development Bank Group's president, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, affirmed that the institution would now commit 20% of all its financing of energy projects towards promoting safe alternatives to cooking with charcoal, wood, and biomass.
Access to clean cooking is more than cooking. It is about human dignity, fairness, justice, and equity for women. It is more than lighting of the stoves. It is about life itself.
Elsewhere, Russian President Vladimir Putin says China's plan and further principles made public by President Xi Jinping last month took account of factors behind the conflict. Putin was quoted to have said, according to a Russian-language transcript on the Kremlin website, that we are positive in our assessment of China's approach to solving the Ukrainian crisis. In Beijing, they truly understand its root causes and its global geopolitical meaning. In the meantime, former President Ali Bongo of Gabon and his two youngest sons, Jalil and Bilal, have started a hunger strike to protest their sequestration and alleged acts of torture against family members. Their lawyers announced this, stating a lawsuit has been filed in the Paris Judicial Court. Justin Bemunyi, NTA News.
Away from the foreign scene, President Bola Tinubu congratulates Nigeria's table tennis pace setter Aruna Quadri on winning the International Table Tennis Federation ITTF Africa Cup title. In a statement, President Tinubu commends the table tennis star for his dogged pursuit of excellence, even in the face of challenges, declaring that the zeal for distinction, the hardiness to succeed, and the inventiveness to solve complex problems are the exceptional qualities that define Nigerians. The president also notes the recent progress in the nation's sports sector, emphasizes that his administration will continue to foster the growth and development of sports in the country. The president reassures Nigerians that his administration remains dedicated to expanding the space of opportunities across diverse fields for Nigeria's creative use. The death has been announced of Ambassador Uche Okeke of Abagana in Kuka local government area of Anambra State. Ambassador Uche Okeke served in the Nigerian Diplomatic Service as Nigeria's acting High Commissioner to the Court of St. James, London, United Kingdom. Ambassador of the Republic of Romania and reached the zenith of his career as Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, NIA. Ambassador Okeke was appointed in 1999 by President Olusegun Obasanjo and also served under President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. Service of songs holds in Abuja on Thursday, the 16th of May 2024, while the final burial rites will take place on the 22nd and 23rd of May 2024 at his hometown, Abagana. He's survived by his wife, Mrs. Ifeanyi Okeke, and 4 children. And that's News Extra tonight. Many thanks for being a part of it. Do have a good night.